This is a dramatized story for entertainment purposes, but it contains practical lessons. Some details have been altered to protect privacy, but the message remains the same. My 8-year-old son saved my life because I chose to listen. Thursday night at SeaTac Airport was supposed to be just a routine airport transfer. Rain lashed against the windshield as Kinsley, my wife of 15 years, kissed me goodbye. She looked professional in her black coat. "See you Friday," she whispered. She disappeared through the sliding door, but as she was out of sight, Lucas grabbed my arm. It was a tight grip. His little hand trembled like a leaf. "Dad, please don't come home tonight." I looked into his eyes and saw utter terror. I felt a chill. I am an engineer. I calculate risk. Something is very wrong. Lucas isn't just scared, he's warning me about something he knows for sure. I have to decide whether or not to trust his trembling hand. Trusting his trembling hand wasn't easy. I'm 38, and for 15 years I thought I knew exactly who I was sleeping next to. I looked at Lucas in the rearview mirror. His face was deathly pale. "I know something about Mom," he whispered. I usually dismissed his worries as bad dreams or an overactive imagination, but this time was different. My heart ached. I'm telling you this because I've missed the signs for too long. We lived in a beautiful house in Lake City with a blue door and a maple tree. I designed every single beam in it. It was our refuge. Lucas started talking about a strange car he'd seen 3 nights before. He mentioned a 2 a.m. phone call. I ignored it all. I felt so stupid. The smell of old chips in the truck now suffocated me. I watched the rain fall on the roof. My mind raced through 1,000 scenarios. Was Kinsley really in San Francisco? Or was she just a stranger with my wife's face? I realized I'd buried myself in my work at Boeing for years, chasing advancement while my own home was becoming a cage. I decided then I wouldn't drive into the yard anymore. I shifted gears and merged into the airport traffic, but I wasn't going to leave. I needed to see my house from the outside. I needed to know if my son was right or if I was losing my mind. The risk of being wrong was just a wasted night. The risk of being right? I couldn't even finish that sentence. I turned the car around, driving us into a darkness I hadn't anticipated. We drove toward Lake City, toward the shadows across the road. We parked in the shade across the street under 2 tall oak trees that perfectly concealed my pickup truck. The pickup smelled of damp upholstery and fear. Lucas was silent, his dinosaur-shaped backpack clutched to his chest. We waited. Time dragged on. The blue door of our house sat peacefully under the porch lights. I felt ridiculous. My engineer brain was mocking me. Then, at 10:45, a dark silhouette rolled down the street. No headlights. It was a van, dark blue or black, creeping stealthily like a predator. My heart pounded in my chest. 2 men stepped out. They wore black hoodies that covered their faces. They didn't look like thieves. They moved with a cold, professional purpose. I reached for the phone, my thumb on 911. "The bad guys Mom talked to," Lucas whispered. I felt nauseated. A man reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. My key. He didn't break in. He just unlocked the door with a soft click and they went inside. I couldn't breathe. There were only 3 keys to that house. My key was in the cup holder. Kinsley's key was supposedly in California. The spare key was in a locked box in her office, a room she always kept secret. Suddenly, a pungent chemical smell filled the house, flammable, petroleum-based. I saw an orange light flare up behind the living room curtains. It spread quickly, too quickly. Those men were burning down the fruits of my life's labor while they thought my son and I were sleeping downstairs. The flames flared up fiercely, turning my beautiful blue door into a gateway to hell. I have to get us out of here before the silver Honda comes back. The silver Honda CR-V was the only thing on my mind as I sped away from the burning wreckage of our lives. I hadn't called the police yet. I couldn't. Not until I had more concrete evidence than the testimony of an 8-year-old against a woman the world considered a saint. We returned to SeaTac Airport at 2 a.m. The parking lot was a concrete tombstone and flickering lights. I share this because sometimes the people you trust most are the ones you should fear. We found her car on level 3, section B. My hands were steady now. Engineer mode had completely taken over. I used the emergency spare key, the key Kinsley never knew I kept, and slid inside. The car's interior smelled of her expensive cologne mixed with something else intensely strong, something familiar. It was the same chemical catalyst I'd just smelled at home. My heart pounded slowly, painfully. I started searching. I checked the glove compartment and the center console. Nothing. Then I reached deep under the passenger seat. My fingers touched a small, cold piece of plastic. I pulled it out. It was a cheap disposable phone. I pressed the power button and the screen lit up. The battery was at 15%. Only one contact was saved in the phone, simply named C. I held my breath. This wasn't just a business trip. This was a mysterious disappearance. I stared at the glowing screen, realizing our whole lives were a lie. I needed to see what was inside that phone. Inside that phone was the digital trail of utter cruelty. I scrolled through the messages between Kinsley and C. 5 days ago, she wrote about wanting to start a new life. C responded with a plan. He mentioned experts who could stage a scene that looked like a gas system malfunction, my own gas system design. They were going to use my career against me. I felt a painful betrayal. It wasn't just about a new life. It was about money. I found a picture of a life insurance policy, $3 million for me, $500,000 for Lucas. I'm telling you this because I can barely believe a mother could do this. Then I saw a message that shattered my soul. 3 days ago, Kinsley asked, "What about Lucas?" The cold reply from C was, "Just unintentional damage, baby. Do you want a new life?" Kinsley's answer was simple. "You're right, no more entanglements." I felt like I was suffocating in that car. She traded our son's life for a chance to elope with a gambler named Chad. I looked at the blueprints in the trunk. They were my original designs for the Lake City house, but they were covered in red circles in Kinsley's handwriting. She had studied my work for months. She knew exactly where the sabotage would be most effective. This wasn't a crime of impulse. It was a cold, meticulously planned execution. I photographed every message and document with my phone. I needed an expert who could turn these digital ghosts into a cage to imprison my wife. I thought of a name my father had whispered to me years ago. Her name was Emberlyn Turner. She was a powerful lawyer, unforgiving of any absurdity. I met her at 9 a.m. in a cramped office, reeking of old paper and stale coffee. I spread the photos of the disposable phone and the ruined blueprints on her desk. She didn't say a word for 5 minutes. She just stared at them with a grim expression. I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. "This is a nightmare, Liam," she finally said. She told me we needed more than just photos. We needed a recorded confession. I told him this because justice requires more than just the truth. It requires evidence. Emberlyn called an acquaintance at the police station. An hour later, Detective Tom Wilson walked in. He was a veteran with salt and pepper hair and eyes that had seen it all. He looked at the text, "Unintended damage," and his jaw tightened. "I have a son too," he asserted. "Let's catch this monster." We had a 3-step plan. No police sirens, no arrests. We intended to lure Kinsley to a public place where she felt safe to play the role of a distraught widow. We would exploit her greed. We set the time for Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Café on Capitol Hill. I would wear the recording device. I had to sit across from the woman who had tried to burn me alive and pretend not to know the truth. My heart was pounding. Everything depended on me keeping calm under that Boeing jacket. The wire felt like a cold snake taped against my chest under my Boeing jacket. Saturday morning arrived with a crisp, biting Seattle wind. I sat in my truck outside Meroled Coffee, checking the audio feed with Detective Wilson. The cafe was already buzzing with the sound of espresso machines and morning chatter. I am telling you this because the silence before a confrontation is the loudest thing you will ever hear. Wilson's voice crackled in my earpiece, steady and calm. "Undercover team is in position. Barista, guy with the laptop, couple by the window, all our people. We had sent the bait an hour earlier. A text from a spoofed number posing as a fire investigator. It mentioned found remains and the need for an immediate insurance statement. It was the only thing Kinsley cared about, the payout. I watched the door, my palms sweating against my coffee cup. My heart was a drum. Then, at exactly 10:02, she walked in. She was dressed in widow's black, her face a mask of calculated grief. She scanned the room, looking for an investigator, but her eyes landed on me instead. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. She stood frozen by the door, a ghost among the living. I didn't move. I didn't smile. I just watched her. The woman who had studied my blueprints to kill me was now staring at a dead man walking. She took a hesitant step forward, then another, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Each step was a confession she didn't know she was making. She finally sank into the chair across from me, her breath hitching in her throat. "Liam? How are you alive?" Kinsley's voice was a trembling whisper. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. I felt a surge of cold fury. I had to keep her talking. "I'm sharing this because a liar's greatest weapon is their belief that you are still a fool." I told her Lucas had saved us. I told her we had been watching from the shadows while the house burned. Her eyes went wide, darting around the cafe, looking for an exit. "Burglars," she stammered. "It must have been burglars." I leaned forward, my voice low and lethal. I asked her how burglars had a key. I asked her why the fire smelled like the chemicals I'd found in her Honda. She tried to cry, the same fake tears she'd probably used for 15 years. "I don't know what you're talking about, Liam. You're traumatized." It was a classic move, gaslighting me even now, but I wasn't the man I was 3 days ago. I was an engineer with a blueprint of her betrayal. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the printouts. I slid the screenshots of the burner phone texts across the table. I watched her eyes track the words. 5 days ago, 4 days ago, then the one from Thursday morning. She didn't deny it at first. She just stared at the paper as if it were a poisonous snake. The cafe around us seemed to go silent. I waited for the lie, for the excuse, for anything. But when she finally looked up, the mask didn't just slip. It shattered completely. The stranger sitting across from me didn't look like my wife anymore. She laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound that made the hair on my neck stand up. "You were always smarter than I gave you credit for, Liam," she said. Her voice was suddenly devoid of emotion, cold as a winter lake. She admitted everything. She talked about the 15 years of suffocating in our perfect life. She talked about Chad and the gambling debts. She even admitted to studying my designs to find the perfect spot to trigger the accident. I am telling you this because the truth is often uglier than the lie. When I asked her about Lucas, she didn't even flinch. "Collateral damage," she repeated, her voice steady. She said it was merciful to let him die in his sleep rather than live with the burden of her leaving. I felt a wave of nausea so strong I had to grip the table. She sat there, sipping her latte, explaining the murder of her own child like she was discussing the weather. She was proud of her sabotage. "Are you recording this?" she asked suddenly, her eyes narrowing. I didn't answer. I just opened my jacket slightly to show the wire. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Before she could scream, Detective Wilson was behind her. The barista and the couple moved in with practiced precision. Handcuffs clicked shut over her wrists. She didn't look at me with regret. She looked at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. As they let her out, she screamed that Chad would never talk. But Wilson just smiled. Chad had already traded her life for 20 years. The courtroom felt smaller than I imagined, a room of polished wood and cold air. I sat on the witness stand, my palms rubbing against my knees. I am telling you this because the law doesn't care about your broken heart. It only cares about what you can prove. We had everything. The wire recording played through the speakers, Kinsley's voice filling the room with the words, "collateral damage." I watched the jury. Some turned away. One woman covered her mouth. Lucas wasn't there. Emberlyn made sure of that. But his dinosaur backpack sat on the bench beside me as a silent witness. The legal montage was a blur of bank records and expert testimony. The prosecution showed the $50,000 cash withdrawal and the blueprints with Kinsley's handwriting. My own engineering colleagues testified about how the sabotage would have worked. It was a cold, technical dissection of an attempted murder. Kinsley's defense tried to argue temporary insanity, but the burner phone messages killed that. Every text to Chad showed months of planning. Every circle on those blueprints showed intent. When the verdict came, it was quiet. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder, arson, conspiracy, 25 years. I looked at Kinsley one last time as the bailiffs led her away. I expected to see fear or even the old mask of grief. Instead, she looked relieved. It was the face of someone who was finally tired of pretending to be human. She didn't look back at me. She didn't ask about her son. She just walked out of my life and into a cell, leaving me with a hollow victory in a house turned to ash. We didn't go back to Lake City. I sold the charred plot of land where our house once stood. I couldn't stand the smell of wood smoke anymore. We moved to a small one-story house in Ballard. It's all electric, no gas lines. Lucas helped me pick it out. I'm sharing this because healing is a slow process of reclaiming small bits of control. Lucas is 9 now, and he still goes to therapy twice a week. Dr. Wells says he has PTSD, a heavy weight for a boy who should be worrying about homework and basketball. I couldn't go back to designing systems at Boeing. Every time I looked at a blueprint, I saw Kinsley's red circles. I saw the sabotage. So I took a job teaching engineering safety at the University of Washington. I teach my students about fail-safes and the ethics of design. I tell them that a system is only as safe as the people who hold the keys. They think I'm intense, maybe a little obsessed with safety. They don't know that I'm teaching them the lessons I learned the night my son gripped my arm at SeaTac. Lucas asked me a question the other day that I still haven't answered. Dad, did she ever love me, or was I always a problem? I held him until his sobbing stopped, but the truth is, I don't know. I'm telling you this so you understand that some fires never truly go out. We are healing, but we are different. We check the locks together every night. It's our ritual. It's how we tell each other that we're still here, and that this time, we are actually safe. 3 years have passed since that rainy night at the airport. I'm sitting on our porch watching Lucas, now 11, play basketball in the driveway. His laughter is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. He's tall for his age, and he wants to be a civil engineer. He says he wants to build bridges because bridges connect people. I think that's a beautiful way to see the world. I am grateful every single day that I chose to believe him. If you're listening to this story, please take these lessons to heart. Systems fail when we ignore the small cracks, and relationships are no different. Trust your instincts. If a partner seems detached or if your gut tells you something is wrong, listen to it. Don't rationalize away the red flags or tell yourself you're being paranoid. Your intuition is a safety system designed to keep you alive. If you or someone you know is in a situation that feels dangerous, please reach out to local authorities or professional support services immediately. Your safety is worth more than any pretense of a perfect life. I still carry the ghosts of those 15 years, but they don't haunt me like they used to. Every day Lucas wakes up safe and loved is a day we win. We carry scars, but we also carry the victory of survival. I look at my son, and I see a hero who saved a man who was too busy working to see the fire coming. Check the locks, listen to your children, trust your gut. Thank you for listening to this grandpa's story. Stay safe out there. Sitting here on this porch, watching Lucas move under the afternoon sun, I've realized something that no engineering degree could ever teach me. In my line of work, a structure doesn't usually collapse because of one sudden massive blow. It fails because of tiny invisible cracks that were noticed but ignored for too long. We see them and we tell ourselves they aren't a big deal. We tell ourselves we're just being paranoid. Marriage and life is no different. We often find excuses for the coldness or the distance because we're afraid of the messy truth. We call it stress or just a phase. But I'm telling you now, never apologize for your intuition. That gut feeling isn't just paranoia. It's a sophisticated safety system built into your DNA. If something feels off in the rhythm of your home, don't wait for the smoke to start rising before you decide to run. The biggest lesson I carry isn't about blueprints or arson. It's about the purity of a child's sight. Children see the world without the filters we adults use to lie to ourselves. They see the shadows when we're too busy staring at the lights. Believing Lucas that night didn't just save our lives, it saved me from a betrayal I wouldn't have survived. It gave him back a father who finally had his eyes wide open. I believe that protecting your peace is the most courageous thing you can ever do. If you agree that we should always trust our gut and put our children's safety above all else, please drop an OK in the comments below. It helps me know that this message is reaching the right people. Houses can be rebuilt, blueprints can be redrawn, but the trust you have in yourself is a sacred thing. Protect it. I hope my story reminds you to check your own locks, not just the ones on your doors, but the ones guarding your heart. Stay vigilant, stay honest, and most importantly, stay safe. Thank you for spending this time with me. Trust your gut. It knows the way home.